Great white shark flamed underwater in the Mediterranean for the first time ever. Divers discover rare predator near Sicily during GhostNet cleanup mission. In a groundbreaking and astonishing discovery, an adult great white shark has been filmed underwater in the Mediterranean Sea for what experts believe is the first time ever. Now let's take a deeper look and uncover every layer of this story on our AI podcast.
I want you to imagine, just for a second, beating the odds of a massive lottery jackpot.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Right. Like, you know the kind I'm talking about, the astronomical, lightning striking twice kind of odds where you are holding the one winning ticket out of millions.
Right, right.
But here's the catch. Instead of a giant novelty check and a shower of confetti, your prize is coming face to face with one of the ocean's most legendary, fearsome, and honestly deeply misunderstood predators.
Okay, that is a very different kind of prize.
Yeah, slightly more terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh, and you are submerged in deep offshore waters in a region where this specific creature has literally never been filmed underwater before.
Wow. I mean, that is just the ultimate high-stakes surprise, isn't it?
Seriously.
And for the marine biology community, we aren't just looking at, a thrilling anecdote or a cool viral clip here.
Right. It's bigger than that.
Much bigger. We're looking at a monumental breakthrough. It completely recontextualizes our understanding of a major marine ecosystem.
So let's unpack this. Our mission for this deep dive into our stack of source material today is to explore a truly groundbreaking event.
Mm-hmm.
It was documented by the Healthy Seas Conservation Mission, and we've got all these reports, expert analyses, diving logs, all centered around this first ever underwater footage of an adult great white shark, just freely swimming in the Mediterranean Sea.
It's incredible.
It really is. So over the course of our conversation, we are going to break down the mechanics of how this wildly improbable encounter actually happened.
Because it really shouldn't have happened.
Exactly. And then we'll dive into what it means for a critically endangered species that is honestly hanging on by a thread. Plus, we'll explore how shifting global temperatures are actively redrawing the maps for where these predators will hunt next.
Yeah, the magnitude of this footage, it really cannot be overstated.
How so?
Well, in marine science, getting this specific animal on video in this specific body of water, it provides vital proof of life.
Proof of life, okay.
Right. It gives us live behavioral data in an area where our understanding has historically been limited to, well, basically autopsying dead animals on fishing docks.
Oh, yeah, that is grim. But to truly understand why this footage is so revolutionary, we really need to look at the incredibly unlikely circumstances of how it was captured in the first place.
Yeah, the backstory is wild.
Because the dive team that shot this footage, they were not marine biologists out on some, high-budget shark expedition.
No, not at all.
They were looking for trash.
Yes. But, they were looking for a very specific, highly lethal type of trash.
Right.
The mission was led by Healthy Seas, which is a marine environmental organization, and their dive team was operating near an offshore shipwreck.
This was in the Strait of Sicily, right?
Exactly. That stretch of water right between Sicily and Tunisia. And their primary objective there was to remove what we call ghost nets.
Ghost nets. So the sources mentioned that ghost net removal is dangerous work, but break down the mechanics of this for me. Like, why are these nets such a massive focus for conservationists?
Well, it comes down to the materials and the really vicious cycle they create.
Okay.
So commercial fishing gear today is mostly made of synthetic polymers, like nylon.
Which doesn't break down.
Exactly. It does not biodegrade. So when a fishing trawler loses a net, or say it gets snagged on a jagged structure like a sunken shipwreck,
it just stays there.
It stays there. And that net doesn't just stop working, it becomes this silent, permanent trap.
Wow.
So first it catches a few fish. Those struggling fish then attract scavengers and predators.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah, then those predators get tangled in the invisible synthetic mesh and they die, which in turn attracts even larger predators.
It's just a domino effect.
Exactly. It creates a perpetual engine of death that can continue indiscriminately killing marine life for decades after the fishing boat has gone home.
That is horrifying. So, picture the scene. You are a diver, you are underwater in the Strait of Sicily, and you're hyper-focused on carefully cutting away heavy, tangled, incredibly dangerous commercial nets from this sunken wreck.
Right, which is already a high-stress situation.
Exactly. And suddenly, gliding silently out of the blue water is a massive adult great white shark.
Unbelievable.
The diver who actually captured the footage, Dirk Remmers, had a reaction that I think captures the surreal nature of this perfectly.
What did he say?
I'm quoting from the reports here. He said, "Statistically, it is way more likely to win the lottery jackpot than to meet such an iconic animal underwater."
That really drives home the statistical anomaly of the whole encounter.
It really does.
I mean, you have an ocean that spans over 2.5 million square kilometers, and a diver happens to be looking in the exact right direction, at the exact right depth, with a camera rolling, at the exact moment this apex predator swims by.
It's mind-boggling, but here is the detail from the dive logs that completely blew my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Despite the initial shock of seeing a great white right in front of them, the divers didn't panic.
No, they didn't.
They didn't immediately abort the dive. They just stayed down there and continued clearing the nets.
It's wild.
It is the equivalent of doing, like, routine roadside trash cleanup on the highway, having a wild Bengal tiger casually stroll out of the woods to lock eyes with you, and you just decide, well, better keep picking up these soda cans.
That's a great analogy. It really highlights a profound level of dedication from that team.
Absolutely.
But it also highlights something incredibly important about this encounter, which was pointed out by Veronica Mikos, the director of Healthy Seas.
Right, the context of the footage.
Exactly. She noted that the context is just as crucial as the shark itself. The Strait of Sicily is considered one of the Mediterranean's absolute richest biodiversity hotspots.
Because of the currents.
Yeah, the ocean currents mix there, bringing nutrient upwelling that supports a massive amount of life. But simultaneously, because it has so much life, it is one of the region's most heavily exploited commercial fishing zones.
So you have this pristine, majestic apex predator swimming literally inches away from a shipwreck, draped in deadly, abandoned industrial fishing nets.
It's striking, isn't it?
It's a stark, almost tragic visual metaphor for the clash between human industry and fragile ecosystems.
It's the ultimate juxtaposition.
Yeah.
And the presence of those lethal ghost nets is directly tied to the grim reality of why seeing the shark alive is such a statistical anomaly in the first place.
Which brings me to a question I was really struggling with while reading through these reports.
Okay, what is it?
We live in an era where practically everyone who goes on a beach vacation has an underwater GoPro.
Right.
We have advanced ROVs, remotely operated vehicles mapping the ocean floor. We have satellite tracking. How is it mathematically possible that this is the very first time we're getting live underwater footage of a great white in the Mediterranean?
It sounds impossible, I know.
Are these sharks just incredibly stealthy, or is this body of water really that empty?
That is a phenomenal question, and the reality leans heavily toward the latter.
It's just empty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sharks aren't pulling off some incredible feat of stealth. They simply are not there in the numbers they used to be. According to Dr. Carlo Catano from the Sicily Marine Center, Mediterranean great whites are critically endangered.
Critically.
Yes. To understand why this live footage is a first, we have to look at the historical timeline of the region.
Okay.
Following the mid-20th century, the industrialization of fishing fleets introduced massive pelagic long lines and bottom trawling to the Mediterranean.
Oh, so just sweeping everything up.
Everything. Over the course of decades, this systematic overfishing didn't just deplete the great white's primary food sources, like bluefin tuna, it also decimated the sharks themselves.
As bycatch.
Exactly.
They weren't being hunted on purpose, they were just getting caught in the crossfire.
Bycatch has been catastrophic for them. I mean, a commercial longline can stretch for miles, baiting thousands of hooks.
Thousands.
Yeah. Sharks inadvertently get caught, and because they can't swim to push water over their gills, they suffocate.
That's awful.
It is. And because of this, almost all the data marine biologists have historically gathered on Mediterranean great whites has come from dead specimens hauled up on fishing docks. We have effectively hollowed out the population.
That makes the scientific value of this new footage so much clearer.
Completely.
Instead of looking at a lifeless animal on a dock and trying to guess how it lived, researchers finally have live behavioral data.
Right. They can see its energy conservation, how it uses the water column, how it navigates around artificial structures like wrecks.
It proves that these endangered animals are actively roaming these offshore pelagic zones. They aren't just, drifting in by accident from the Atlantic only to get tangled in nets.
Exactly. They are actively utilizing the nutrient-rich waters of the Strait of Sicily.
That's huge.
It is. If the apex predators are still present, it provides tangible, undeniable proof that the area is biologically significant and urgently worth protecting.
So this specific convergence zone in the Strait of Sicily still has enough life to keep a great white around. But here's the problem. When the general public hears the phrase great white in the Mediterranean, they don't think about pelagic zones or nutrient upwelling.
No, definitely not.
The sources detail a pretty intense immediate fallout. As soon as the news hit, holidaymakers and tourists started expressing serious panic about shark activity near European coastlines.
Naturally.
People hear great white and their brains immediately cue the Jaws theme song, dun 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 dun.
Yeah, that's exactly where everyone's mind goes.
They picture their summer beach vacations ruined.
The cultural baggage that the great white shark carries is immense, and it often completely overrides ecological logic.
Right.
But the experts in our source material were very quick to step in and correct that narrative.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Dr. Lauren Smith, a shark expert at Saltwater Life, emphasized that this shark was filmed far offshore. The pelagic zone is the open ocean. It is nowhere near the shallow coastal waters or tourist beaches where people actually swim.
So when people hear great white, they panic. But ecologically speaking, what is this shark actually telling us about the health of the water? Like, help me bridge the gap between a scary movie monster and actual marine biology.
To bridge that gap, we need to talk about the mechanics of something called trophic cascades.
Okay, trophic cascades.
Right. An apex predator, like a great white shark, sits at the very top of the food web. But it cannot survive in a vacuum. It requires a massive, stable, and healthy pyramid of life beneath it.
So how does that cascade actually work in practice?
Think of the great white as the ultimate regulator.
Okay.
A great white eats mesopredators, mid-level predators like smaller sharks, rays, or large predatory fish.
Got it.
If the great white is removed from the ecosystem, those mesopredator populations explode.
Because nothing is eating them.
Exactly. And because there are suddenly too many mid-level predators, they overconsume the foundational layer of the food web, which are often the smaller grazing herbivore fish.
Oh, I see.
And if you wipe out the grazing fish, algae grows unchecked and literally smothers the reefs. The entire system collapses from the middle out.
Wow. So instead of looking at the great white as a monster, it's more like a structural load-bearing beam for the local environment. If the beam is there, the house is stable.
That is an excellent way to conceptualize it. When you see a healthy adult great white in an area, it is a fantastic ecological indicator.
It means things are working.
Right. It means the Mediterranean still has enough biodiversity, enough grazing fish, and enough mesopredators to support the load-bearing beam at the top.
That makes total sense.
As Dr. Smith pointed out, seeing a healthy individual is genuinely encouraging news for conservation. It is a sign of a healing, or at least highly resilient ecosystem.
Okay, so if this shark proves that certain pockets of the Mediterranean can still support these load-bearing predators, it makes me wonder about the boundaries of their habitat.
In what way?
Well, are they strictly confined to these southern hotspots, or is the map bigger than we thought? Because the sources mention a growing scientific discussion about changing ocean temperatures, and there are unverified sightings reported recently around Cornwall and northern Scotland.
Yes.
Which brings me to a massive contradiction I need your help reconciling.
Let's hear it.
If the Mediterranean is a historic habitat, but it's been largely emptied out by overfishing and bycatch, why on earth would the sharks migrate to Britain? Are they fleeing the fishing nets, or are they fleeing the heat? Like, which variable is actually driving this northern push?
It is the heat, without a doubt.
Really?
Yeah, and the complex ways heat reorganizes the entire food web. To understand this migration, we have to look at thermal gradients in the ocean.
Okay.
Marine species, especially the prey species that great whites rely on, are incredibly sensitive to temperature changes. I mean, even a 1 or 2 degrees Celsius shift in water temperature can completely alter a habitat.
So as the southern waters warm up beyond their comfort zone, the foundational fish start moving north to stay cool.
Yes, exactly. The prey species migrate northward, seeking the cooler thermal bands they're evolutionarily adapted to.
And the sharks just follow the food.
The apex predators follow the prey. Think of the shifting ocean temperatures as a process of unlocking a previously frozen highway system.
Ooh, I like that.
For millennia, the colder waters of northern Europe acted as a literal thermal toll gate. The great whites simply couldn't survive the cold or find enough specialized prey to justify the energy expenditure of traveling there.
Makes sense.
But as global climate change raises sea surface temperatures, that thermal toll gate is lifting. The highway is opening up.
Wow. That completely reframes how I view a map of the ocean. It's not static geography, it's a fluid, changing ecosystem driven by thermodynamics.
Exactly.
But the sources point out an incredible historical detail here. This potential push into northern waters near Britain, Belgium, and Denmark, it wouldn't actually be an invasion.
No, it wouldn't.
It would be a homecoming.
That is the most fascinating biological twist in this entire discussion, I think. The ancient ancestors of modern great whites actually hunted in those exact northern regions millions of years ago.
Millions of years.
Yeah, during epochs like the Pliocene, when global ocean temperatures were naturally much higher.
It's staggering to think about. It's not unprecedented in geologic time. It's just unprecedented in human history. We are watching climate change actively recreate the ancient hunting grounds of the North Sea.
We really are. And it shows us that human impact is the defining force shaping the ocean today.
Definitely.
Whether it is decades of industrial overfishing and bycatch in the Mediterranean or modern greenhouse gas emissions altering the thermal gradients of the Atlantic, human activity is actively steering the fate and the literal physical location of the ocean's most iconic species.
Which brings us back to what this all means for you, the listener. The next time you find yourself standing on a coastline looking out at the water,
Yeah.
the ocean you are looking at is not the same ocean that existed 50 years ago, and it won't be the same ocean 50 years from now.
Not even close.
This isn't just an abstract scientific concept happening miles out to sea. These shifting thermal highways dictate the weather patterns that hit your local town.
Right.
They dictate which fish are available at your local market. They change the fundamental reality of the coastlines you travel to.
The marine map is actively being redrawn in our lifetimes.
We started this deep dive with a diver who beat the astronomical lottery odds. Dirk Remmers was just trying to pull lethal synthetic ghost nets off a sunken shipwreck in the Strait of Sicily, and instead he captured the holy grail of Mediterranean marine biology.
An incredible moment.
Truly. We unpacked the tragic historical timeline of how bycatch hollered out this population and how a single live video provides more hope for the species than decades of dockside data.
Yeah.
We dismantled the Jaws panic, revealing the great white not as a villain, but as a vital load-bearing regulator necessary for a healthy food web.
A crucial part of the ecosystem.
And finally, we explored how unlocking frozen thermal highways might bring these ancient predators back to the shores of northern Europe.
It is a remarkable narrative arc contained within a single piece of underwater footage.
It really is.
It proves that despite our advanced satellites and deep-sea submersibles, the ocean remains a vast, dynamic, and largely unexplored wilderness.
It is an urgent reminder that we have a shrinking window to protect these fragile ecosystems from pollution, industrial overfishing, and abandoned gear before we lose the magic of encounters like this entirely.
It really demands our proactive respect.
Yeah.
And, it leaves us with an incredibly important and slightly unsettling question to ponder.
What's that?
If warming oceans are actively unlocking ancient migration routes, allowing great whites to return to northern Europe after millions of years, what other dormant ecological pathways are about to be reawakened by climate change?
Oh, wow.
Right. As the thermal toll gates continue to lift, is our heavily fished, profoundly altered modern marine food web truly ready for the return of its long-lost prehistoric neighbors?
Man, now there is a thought to keep you up at night. The next time you look out at the waves, just remember, the map is changing, and somewhere out there in the deep blue, someone is holding the winning lottery ticket.
Okay, one question for you. Why do marine researchers believe this rare encounter between divers and a great white shark highlights the urgent need for stronger conservation efforts against ghost nets, overfishing, and habitat destruction in the Mediterranean Sea? Don't forget to comment it. Thanks.